Good evening. The country's biggest engineering company has lost its fight to stay independent. GKN is one of the country's oldest firms and has a history stretching back 250 years. Well, it's a huge employer in the West Midlands. It has its headquarters in Redditch and factories across the region. In January, Melrose Industries launched its bid to buy GKN. Bosses there tried to fight the takeover.
This afternoon, investors agreed to the offer. Well, for the latest, we can join our business correspondent Mark Goff, who's outside one of GKN's factories at Erdington in Birmingham. And Mark, investors wanted this takeover to happen, but many others didn't. Why?
Well, on the one side, you've got Melrose, and they say they're a company which buys other companies which are fundamentally sound but are perhaps underperforming. They then turn them around and sell them on at a profit. And on the other side, you've got people who say that Melrose are asset strippers. They just come in, take the best bits, sell off the bits which they don't want, and what's left really is people's jobs might be under threat. As you say, GKN is a big employer here. We're at Erdington at the Driveline factory, and they make car parts here for Jaguar Land Rover, among others, engine parts. They've got the headquarters in Redditch, about 250 people work there. They've got a plant in Kings Norton as well, which is the aerospace division, and they make toughened glass for aeroplanes there. And there's the plant in Telford also, where they make heavy wheels for things like motorway maintenance. But yeah, as you say, there have been some concerns over this deal, and one of those people that's been concerned is the Erdington Labour MP, Jack Dromey, who joins me now. Jack, what is your main concern about Melrose?
This is a bleak day for British industry and for the British national interest. GKN is a company 259 years old. The whole history of Melrose, a third of the size of GKN, is that they buy up, sell off and move on. They're making a great deal of money out of taking over GKN. And to add insult to injury, they would not have succeeded 52 to 48% had the hedge funds not moved in, like American-based hedge funds, to make a short-term killing on GKN shares, but leaving the workforce here in the lurch. That cannot be right. Ministers have got the power now to intervene, still, because of the vital defence and strategic work that is done by GKN. They must exercise that power now and block this takeover.
Okay, Jack, thanks very much for joining me. I spoke to Mick Forbes, who's one of the union conveners here before, and he said, you know, the order book here is good. They're just going to keep coming into work as normal, but they need to talk to Melrose to find out what will happen with their jobs in the future.
The biggest worry about Melrose is obviously we've got people up in the head office up in Redditch who have already said they're looking at closing head office. I mean, they did give a guarantee with Greg Clark the other day that they would keep it open for 5 years. Well, you can keep a building open, we won't guarantee about people's jobs. You know, a building's a building, people's jobs is what we're concerned about in the future.
Well, we refer to GKN being an historic company. It really is, going back to the Battle of Waterloo, the First World War and the Second World War. GKN's history goes back to the start of the Industrial Revolution and the founding in 1759 of the Dowlais Ironworks in South Wales. It supplied the cannonballs used by the British Army during the Battle of Waterloo. The firm grew rapidly in the 19th century under the ownership of Sir John Guest. The firm's initials, GKN, can be traced back to the 1900s when Guest, Keane and Nettlefolds was created with the merger of three firms. Keane and Nettlefolds were based in the West Midlands. Keane already had a major interest in making fasteners and had earlier taken over the Dowlais Ironworks. By 1905, it was the largest iron, steel and coal group in the country. During the First World War, it was heavily involved in making steel for the military, including shells. During the Second World War, GKN produced Spitfires and specialised tanks for the D-Day landings, as well as millions of steel helmets. When the steel industry was nationalised in 1967, GKN started to diversify into areas including the car industry, aerospace and engineering. It now employs almost 60,000 people in 30 countries. Well, as the MP just referred to there, this may not yet be a done deal because the government can intervene in this. Because the GKN is involved in the aerospace industry and in military, it could block this deal on the grounds of national interest. Also, the deal has to be approved over in the United States as well because they're involved in military contracts over there. Well, for Melrose, they say they've got a good track record of looking after businesses, and they've given assurances to the government that they will look after the GKN workers, certainly for 5 years. They're going to keep the aerospace business open. But people want more assurances than that, more guarantees and more binding guarantees from Melrose, forced on them by the government.
Indeed. Mark, thank you very much.